Hello and welcome to the world of physics. In this session, we are going to start with a chapter called as Laws of Motion, which is the very first and a most beautiful chapter of science as well as physics. So in this, first we are going to start with the first topic, that is motion and rest. For that, I want you all to observe these pictures very carefully. In the first case, we can see that car is running at its very best speed on a road. The second is the train is moving. The third example is the birds are flying in a sky. The next is, wow, the water is flowing from the great height and it is appearing to be most beautiful concept. The next is, the boy is walking or running. Can we say in all these four examples, what we have discussed till now, the objects or the body, they are actually in motion. So what we understand by this term motion, or what exactly we can say, or when we can say that a body is said to be in motion? Well, let's understand this. Suppose there is a car over here, and if this car moves, it goes from one place to another place. Now since the car moves from one place to another place, the car has changed its position. Now since the car has changed its position, the car is said to be in motion. So here comes the first definition of the chapter, and that is of motion. What we can say, object or a body in motion. A body is said to be in motion when it changes its position with respect to its surrounding. That's a very beautiful definition of motion. So this was about motion. Let's understand some more example of motion. Can I say the clock is in motion? Actually not. Clock is not in a motion. In fact, the hands of the clocks are moving. So since the hands of the clocks are changing their position continuously, the hands of the clocks are in motion. The next example is, the moment Virat hits the shot, the ball changes its position continuously till it reaches the boundary, and the ball is said to be in motion. Let's see one more beautiful example. The moment Ronaldo hits the shot or kicks the ball over here, it lands into the goal post, and since the ball is changing its position continuously, it is said to be in motion. Okay, so these were the few examples of motion, children. Next is, some motion or some type of motion we can actually see or perceive, but some type of motion we can actually feel. We cannot see those motion. Till now we have seen the examples which we can see. We can see the example of motion, such as in case of car was moving, the train was running, and the water was flowing, motion of hands of the clock. Let's see some more example which help us to understand where we cannot see the motion but we can actually feel. The first in that case is the motion of the winds due to thunderstorm. We actually cannot see the winds, but we can actually feel the wind, or we can actually feel the breeze due to it. Okay, so this was the first. Second is, we cannot actually see the movements or the flow of the blood in our body, but we can actually feel it when the heart pumps. So these were the example in which we cannot see the motion, but we can definitely feel. Let's see one more beautiful concept and one more beautiful type of motion which is available in the nature. That is motion of moon around Earth. Children, we all know that moon is continuously revolving around Earth, and because of that we are able to see many different shapes of moon, and yes, of course, these shapes we termed it as phases of moon. So all these were the example of motion. I hope motion is clear to you. Okay, this was about motion. When a body changes its position, it is said to be in motion. When the body changes its position with respect to surrounding, it is said to be in motion. Now let's see exact opposite end of the motion and another term, and that is called as rest. Now children, what we mean by rest? Is it something like resting in a garden or something like that? Well, it can be in the real life, but in physics it is not. In physics, rest means what? Let's see, suppose there is a ball. Is the ball moving, or does it change its position continuously? No, it won't change its position till someone comes and kicks the ball. Since the ball is not changing its position, the ball is said to be at rest. The next example, all the car stops at the signal. Or can any car move if there is a stop signal, or if there is any policeman who is stopping you to go ahead? No, actually you cannot move, right? So in this case, the car is not moving, means it is not changing its position. So when a body does not change its position, the body is said to be at rest. So that gives the second definition of chapter, that is rest. A body is said to be at rest when it does not change its position with respect to its surrounding. So these were the examples and the concept of motion and rest. Okay, now let's see, let's have a chronology. When the body changes its position, it is said to be in motion, and when body does not change its position with respect to surrounding, it is said to be at rest. They can ask you this question in correlate type of pattern. Okay, so position changes, body in motion; position does not changes, body is at rest. Now children, let's try to club these two concepts together and frame one new concept, and that is called motion as a relative concept. So what we mean or what we understand motion as a relative concept? For that, let's start with a very simple activity. Suppose three friends are there, and two friends actually they are inside the jet. Okay, so two of them are traveling through this plane, and there is a third friend or third observer who is observing them from the ground. Now when the plane moves, for this person, or let me name this person as first one as A, second as B, and this person on the ground as C. Now children, for C says that A is in motion. C says that A is in motion, but B says that A is at rest. Now who is right and who is wrong? Is it a bad or a stupid question, or is it an irrelevant question? No, actually it is not. We can answer this, or we can try to answer this question by just simply giving an idea about motion and rest and their position. See, actually C and B, both of these are observer. C says that A is in motion, B says that A is at rest. In fact, both of them are correct, because both the observer have different position. Because motion depends on observer. Because since C is on the outside of the plane and he is observing the person A from outer part, and B is within the plane. So since B and A both appears to be rest, for B, A will appear to be at rest. And since for C, the complete jet is in motion, therefore it will appear that A is also in motion. So this explains that a body can be moving for one observer and at the same time at rest for another observer. Okay, this explains the idea that motion is a relative concept. Means it depends on observer. A body can be moving for one and at the same time at rest for another observer. In this case, for person C, A was in motion because A was inside the plane. Plane was moving, A was also moving. But for B, since the B is sitting just behind the A and both of them are at rest, it appears that A is in motion, A is at rest for the observer B. This explains us the idea of motion as a relative concept. Means what? It depends on the observer. It depends on the observer. So this was the concept of motion and motion of relative concept. Let's see one more example of motion as a relative concept, and that is, what is this? We all can observe a very giant and a very big statue of Unity. Is it in motion? Of course not. When we observe this statue of Unity from the surface of the earth, it appears to be at rest, of course. But when the same statue of Unity, when we go out and observe from the space, since earth is rotating, and when we observe this statue, even that statue will keep on rotating. This explains us that the position of the observer earlier was at the surface of the earth, and when we observe that from the surface of the earth, the statue of Unity was at rest, but the same statue, when we observe from the space, it appears to be at motion. So this also explains us the idea of motion as a relative concept. Hope you understand motion, rest and motion as a relative concept. Thank you.